Good evening and welcome to the Gold Goats and Guns Hour here on YouTube and Live TV Live. My name is Tom Luongo. It is Monday, October 28th, 2019, and we've got a lot to talk about, as always. Tonight, I'm going to talk about something a little, we're going to talk about a lot of other things, but I want to talk for 15, 20 minutes to start out with tonight about this idea that the vampire squid himself, George Soros, is promulgating the idea that came out the other day and said that populism has peaked and that his plan for a liberal, open society, new world order will be back on track anytime now, because things like Brexit and Donald Trump, they're anomalies and they don't matter. So we're going to talk about that tonight. We're going to talk about, I'm sure, a lot of other things, because that's not enough to talk about within an hour. So you can follow me, as always, over at my blog over at tomluongo.me. You can follow me on Twitter at TFL1728. You can like and subscribe to the channel down below, because that would be awesome. We're over 3,000 people. That's cool. It's all good. And you can, of course, support my work over at Patreon/GoldGoatsAndGuns. So go ahead and like, share, subscribe, comment, all that stuff, because that does actually help, as everybody eventually figures out, right? So, as everybody knows, so we should do that, right? Constantly. All right, so there we are. Let's get to it. And we're going to talk about Brexit, as always. And we're going to talk about a lot of other things. Greetings from smoky California. Yeah, I'm sorry, Liz. So yeah, California's. So what isn't? So if you think about what's happening in California, before we get started with the Soros stuff, if we think about what's happening in California, it's being whipped up and it's on fire. It's almost like it's being wiped clean by the wrath of God or something. What isn't on fire yet is going to be swept clean and purged in a cleansing fire, right? It'll start in the. Hopefully, if it is going to continue, it'll eventually make its way out of the forest and into the cities. We can only hope. We are going to talk a little bit about the situation with al-Baghdadi, the leader of ISIS, and what I think is going on there, and Trump's insane tweets today about taking the Syrian oil and all that stuff. So, no, Edwin, talking about fire doesn't make me cough. I just happened to swallow wrong. Sorry, it just, stuff happens. Some dude was arrested for causing 13 fires in California. James is here again tonight. All right, well, let's get started. So, I read with consternation, confusion, downright disbelief that George Soros would pop his head out of his casket during the day, no less, risking, skin cancer and horrible, and certain death, to proclaim to the New York Times that he thought that this populist wave that we've been going through is kind of reaching its peak, and that his plans for new world order, based on his ideas of an open society, are going to reassert themselves over time, and that's what's going to happen. And it's funny, the solipsism that people who think they run the world develop over the course of their lives. We all know that Soros admits he's got a God complex, and so I just find it really funny. But he only ever comes out to push the narrative where he wants to push it, and he's been doing that more often than he normally does. And you'll notice that he's doing it probably once about every 8 to 10 weeks now, as opposed to once or twice a year. And that should tell you what you need to know, which is that the more he talks, the more he's worried, because like everybody else, he talks his book. Never is a bank in more trouble than when it announces to the world, we have adequate reserves. Everything's fine. We have adequate reserves. Why are you telling us this? Why do you feel the need to tell us that you have adequate reserves? Because you don't. You would only be coming out and telling everybody this if you were worried about your liquidity position. So, as a bank. And it's the same thing with people like George Soros. So, I boggle at that, right? On the day after Thuringia sees in Germany, the Thuringia state elections in Germany see Alternative for Germany take second place ahead of Angela Merkel's CDU. There's no way for Die Linke, who normally wins in Thuringia, to form a coalition government with anybody on the left who they're ideologically aligned with. That's generally because of a leftist party. How's that going to happen now? It's just funny, right? It's just like we had Brandenburg and Saxony. Those elections didn't go well for George. Merkel's party, with every state election that goes by, Merkel's CDU is shown to be less and less and less powerful. Her coalition partners, the Social Democrats, the SPD, are on the verge of extinction. Took only 8.5% in Thuringia, supposedly a leftist state. So I'm trying to go with George here, and like, okay, maybe he's seeing something I'm not, right? And then this afternoon we get the results from Umbria in Italy. Now, Umbria, I did a little bit of research today before we came on the air. I don't know much about the various states within Italy. I don't know that much about Italian politics. I know that the northern states are Lega's traditional stronghold, and I do know that, like, for example, that Veneto had a non-binding referendum a few years ago saying they wanted to secede from Italy. I thought that was funny. That stuck with me for a long time. But here's the gig about Umbria. I don't know if you guys know this or not. But for the longest time, Umbria was considered one of the Red Trinity, meaning one of the communist Red Trinities of the strongholds of the Italian Communist Party, and that's not been the case in recent years. But it's moved towards just a kind of standard center left or leftist position, and people in Umbria are generally leftist. In the 2015 election, they voted Democrat and 5-star, I think. Well, in this election, the center-right coalition, led by Matteo Salvini's Lega, and along with Forza Italia, Bunga Bunga Berlusconi, and the Brothers of Italy, took 57% of the vote. And the center-left coalition between the Democrats, 5-star, and a couple minor parties, 37% of the vote, including 5-star, which took a whopping 7.5% in a traditionally hard left state in Italy. Now, back in August, when Salvini made his push to try and push for new elections and a new government, I was arguing with a person on Twitter, an Italian on Twitter, who told me that flat out that Salvini was an idiot and he was wrong, and it was undemocratic for him to call elections at this point in time, even though the polls had moved so far red. But this guy was a 5-star. This guy was a 5-star supporter, and he told me, "This is what's going to happen. Salvini is going to lose this push. 5-star will make an alliance with the Democrats." Which I said, "Yeah, well, that's possible. I can see Di Maio doing that." And then they will rise in the polls in popularity, and Salvini will fall. Watch, it's already happening. I said, well, Salvini's Lega support at that point had been pushing up towards 38, 39%. And in my mind, that was probably overshooting it a little bit, considering that he couldn't get anything done. So backing off 4 or 5% from there doesn't really affect me. Doesn't really mean much to me. because Five Star was gutted down to 18%, hit 21, and now is back down to 19. And then hard left places like Umbria, 7. Let's get the other two fingers there. 7. Now, I don't know about you, but 7 is a lot less than 21. I only have a BS in chemistry, but I know that 7 is less than 21. Just putting my bona fides out there. So he was wrong about that, and he was wrong about just about everything else. He was right that Five Star and the Democrats were going to form a coalition, but that wasn't because that was the best thing for Italy. That was the best thing for Five Star. Five Star chose to hang on to power versus fulfilling its mandate as a Eurosceptic and as a revisionist and reformer government, reformer party. Since that coalition was formed, they can't even pass a budget. Nothing is working. And by the time the Democrats are done wringing Five Star dry, it'll be a dead party. Exactly the way I told this guy on Twitter. You can go back through my tweets. And I said in multiple articles that this is what was going to happen. Once you betray your original mandate, once you betray the people for power, ask Alexis Tsipras in Greece what happens when you betray the people for power. You're eventually hounded from office in disgrace, and fucking Tsipras can't get, he can't get arrested in Greece at this point. So, have I ever seen Tom and Jerry? Of course I've seen Tom and Jerry. I grew up on Tom and Jerry. Tom and Jerry is one of the greatest cartoons of all time. So, when I look at, less my detour into the guts of Italian politics, and get us back to delusional George Soros, I note with interest how a lot of news outlets who were covering this article, this interview in the Times, and the Times put up some typically Times picture of Soros in a black background, and still looked, they made him look, relatively vibrant and powerful and potent. But every other picture I saw of him, I mentioned this on Friday, I called him impustulated. He looked terrible. I found a great picture for my blog this morning. He literally looks like a guy at a nursing home watching, like hanging with bated breath at what letter Vanna White's going to turn over next. I mean, that's what he looks like. You take a look at the picture that I have up on my blog over tomluongo.me of George Soros, and it's actually the thumbnail for this blog, for this live stream as well. He literally looks like an old man in a nursing home watching a game show. He happens to be worth billions of dollars and moves markets all the way around the world, but that should scare the fucking shit out of you. Because that's who he is. Yes, LGBR, I agree. What I was trying to say is the Five Star cut their own throats in both the short term and the long term when they shank Salvini. And Salvini is going to have the last laugh and is going to walk into Parliament with a massive majority whenever they are allowed to hold elections again. So, but George is delusional if he thinks that he's winning by spending hundreds of millions of dollars to stop Brexit and hundreds of millions of dollars or tens of millions of dollars to lose the governor's race in Georgia by running an illiterate black woman, or stealing an election, or stealing the Hungarian, the Budapest mayoral election recently, right? A little bit too much. Viktor Orban there was the victim of his own success. A little bit too much complacency on the part of Hungarian on Budapestians, I guess. I don't know, residents of Budapest who didn't show up to the polls and with a low voter turnout elected some some Soros quizzling. Well, guess what? It won't last. All that'll do is anger people even more after he tries to pull a Bill de Blasio and destroy the city in 4 years. So. I'm assuming there's no voter fraud. It is Italy. Considering the way the Italian polling is, Stoyanovich, I'd say then that it's a miracle they only lost by 20 points and not 25 or 30. What motivates Soros? What motivates Soros is a God complex that he wants to change the world. Power. He doesn't need the devil. He didn't make a deal with the devil. The devil made a deal with him. I still can't stand Stacey Abrams. Nobody can. I don't even think her husband likes her. Joanne Leone's in the house tonight, says, I think Soros has groomed the next generation, though, right? Yeah, I mean, his sons are running a shop, but look, the sons are never going to be as motivated as the father was. Joanne. They were born into ridiculous amounts of money. I know you're saying that. That's not saying that's a good thing. I know you're saying it's a terrible thing. I just don't see these guys having the same ideological fervor that the dad does. Just don't see it. It's not possible. I mean, for all that we rag on George around here, he is a self-made man. A self-made man, pulling himself up to the bootstraps with nothing and shitting on people all the way up and down the line and earning himself billions in unearned wealth through market manipulation. But, emblematic of the corruption of our age, that a man can make much money as he has, manipulating the friggin' funny money markets. Ridiculous. George Soros has never produced one iota of anything of value to anyone else. Think about that. He didn't build a better mousetrap. He didn't design the iPhone. He didn't even Bill Gates had, Bill Gates has earned his shit libbery, right? His shit libdom, Bill Gates is a classic example of what happens when a person marries the wrong woman. Sorry. Bill was a perfectly reasonable, ruthless, libertarian capitalist until he met Melinda, and then he turned into a fucking shit lib. What else is new? Every halfway decent man is, marrying the wrong, getting involved with the wrong woman. All right. Sorry. Just the truth. So, not, present company excluded, of course, because you're all fabulous women. But, I mean, like Windows or hate Windows, like Microsoft or hate Microsoft, at least Bill Gates built shit that people used and did something with, built something that people used to make the world a better place, to improve efficiency, to write great screenplays, to write great novels, to write my running commentary every day. I do it in Word. Why? I like Word. It took me years to like Word, mostly because WordPerfect. But yeah. Yeah, you better watch myself there. I'm about ready to step in it, says Stan Minchow. Well, I married well. Sorry, tension just broke the room, man. He said, well, copying your feel of your first boob can change any man in his 30s. Dude, that was cold. That was cold. All that evil for what? Asked Juan Isaac. What a legacy for George Soros. Right up there with Stalin. He'll never be seen that. He'll never see himself that way. Yeah. So, But that's the thing with George. It doesn't. It's a very sad thing to watch this guy continue to delude himself that he's still winning. He's going to be. Windows phones were cool. I used one up until I was forced kicking and screaming to buy an Android phone, and then eventually I just the hell with that shit and I bought an iPhone, like everybody else, because at least the iPhone works. And fuck Google. So if I had to, choose, I'll choose the better technology. And I never thought I'd ever hear myself say the best technology for the price is an Apple product. That has never been that way for the 35 years I've been building my own computers. Trump never mentioned Soros. No, he's not dumb. So just, when you go through all of it, you ask yourself, like, we had Brexit was delayed again today. And by delaying Brexit again today, like increasing the likelihood of a general election, that Johnson will probably win, but will need to form a coalition with Nigel Farage to get it done, because I firmly expect to see the polls shift about 10 points away from Johnson and towards Farage. And we'll see Farage take 50 to 70 seats in the Midlands and Labour to get crushed. I don't see how George thinks that's winning. Any general election that winds up with Boris Johnson and the Tories having to make a deal with Nigel Farage in order to form a government to get Brexit done, which is what will happen, will result in a harder Brexit and a much harder free trade agreement negotiation than they currently have. Carl Williams says, I'm in my 50s and my missus is in her early 30s. It's great. We work as one. Hey, man, you can make it work. Rob that cradle, Carl, if you can. Go for it. Not the same. Hey, look, let's not argue about the Bill Gates' qualifications as a tech innovator. That's not what I'm talking about, because that's obviously not his strong point. His strong point was building the company and running it. He was a great CEO of Microsoft. Period. Maybe one of the greatest CEOs who ever lived, by the way. So, but at the end of the day, Soros never produced anything of value to anyone. So of course, this to me makes perfect sense as to why he's obsessed with wanting to take over the world. Because, like, at the end of the day, what does he have? He's made money on other people's money. He's made money on money. Not a particularly satisfying lifestyle. You add to that an ideological fervor to change the world into your image, because you have, that's what gives your life meaning. It's sick and it's twisted and it's crazy, but it's it's an ethos. As Walter said, say what you want about National Socialism, dude, at least it's an ethos. All right. That's enough about George. But just so you know, we haven't even begun to reach peak populism yet. The beginning of the anger that people feel towards these people and their grand plans of social control and all of their promises, all the promises of social spending and socialism and the social safety net and all this stuff that the leftists have been promulgating for the last 150 years and various flavors of Marxism, all of it's going to fail, and all of it is failing right here, right now. That's what the debt problem is in Europe. It's what the huge debt levels in the United States and Saudi Arabia and other places, what this is all about. Saudi Arabia doesn't have a lot of debt, but they have a tremendous amount of budgetary problems, right? So, but the world is awash in debt because you can't pay for the promises made to everybody out of today's production. You've got to continue to pull production forward from the future in order to pay for your promises made yesterday. And you got to do it with tomorrow's money. Okay? The global economy is based on the wimpy model. All this is. And no matter what you do, no matter how you slice it, no matter how you fuck around with it, no matter how much you try and make it, or how much you try and muck with definitions and, get people angry emotionally and everything else, when you do the raw, hard analysis, that is the inescapable truth. It's mathematically unsustainable because lies are expensive, and market interventions by governments always beget greater and greater and greater market interventions because you always lose money in the transactions. Economic friction. Diverting the money away from where it wants to go, the capital from where it wants to go, has cost. There's energy costs associated with it. That energy has to be paid for. There ain't no such thing as a free lunch. Not in physics, not in monetary theory, not in thermodynamics. Doesn't work. And once you understand that, and once you take that truly into your hearts, then you can see how every fucking government intervention by people like Soros and Trump and Warren and Theresa May and Macron and Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin and all of them, the good guys, the bad guys, and everybody in between, you can see them all as nothing but bloody, horrible consequences. Making money is completely different than providing value. Profit is supposed to be the thing you earn by finding the arbitrage between what people need and what's available and what you can provide them. The cost of building the thing and selling it to somebody who can use it at a higher degree of competence than you ever could. Law of diminishing marginal utility, the law of comparative advantage. These are the basic. This is how the world operates. Money is not wealth. It's a tool for measuring, storing, and transferring wealth. Which is why when you fuck with the value of money, you fuck with people's ability to measure, store, and transfer wealth and make good decisions about how they're going to plan for their future and how they value their past. And you disincentivize them to go out and achieve anything because people are just going to steal it from you anyway. Because fuckers like Soros are just going to steal it from you. So Stoyanovich asks, where are we on Brexit? Well, you guys listened to the podcast that I did last night with Mike Shedlock. So Mike, Mish, and I have been going back and forth as to who's right and who's wrong about what's actually going on with Brexit and where's everybody's advantages and everything else. It was a great talk. It was a great time. I hadn't met Mike before. Somebody whose work I've been reading on and off since he first started back in like 2003. And it was finally a great chance to sit down and chat with Mike. It's great to have a healthy disagreement with another professional because you see things and you learn things when you bounce ideas off of each other that you'll never get living in your own head. No matter how good your head is, it's always 2 heads are always better than 1, and 100 heads are better than 2 heads. And as I always say about these people like George Soros, who think they're the smartest person in the room, I got news for you. You may be smarter than everybody else, but you ain't smarter than the room. Because the collective IQ of the room is by far greater than you could possibly be. Period. Because we just have more information at our disposal than you do. And, I'm not sitting over here denigrating my ability to think my way through problems. I just know that I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I just know the limits of my own knowledge. So when we start talking about Brexit, it's always couched in the idea that, this is the best information we've got. What do these things mean? I'm going to try and bring the podcast back, Joe Vasicek. It seems to me like, I'll tell you why. Because I found out last night that I can now directly record Skype calls. That's like a really new thing. And before, it was actually really difficult. It was really, really hard to set up interviews with people, and there was no guarantee that I could actually get any of the freaking software to work properly. So it was just, called Mike up, hit the record button, it recorded it, boom, done. Hopefully I'll now try and set up a series of interviews with some more people, and we'll see what we can get. I'd like to interview Quote the Raven. I'd like to interview Caitlin Long and a couple of other people as well. So we'll see what happens. I had calls into them over the summer. We'll see if we can get them back into. I'd love to build a rapport with Quote the Raven. I think that would be. I think he and I on a podcast together would be a fucking hoot. I think it would be Joe Rogan material. So, but hey, got to prove it to the guy. He's got a much bigger audience than I do. So, but that being said, hey, Chris, if you're watching, let's do the thing. All right. So where we are on Brexit is as follows. Okay, two things. Before we start, Stoyanovich says it was a good listen. I thought you were a bit deferential, but there was no reason to be argumentative. If I'm the host, I'm supposed to be deferential. And yeah, I do want to be deferential because I would like these people to come back and chat with them again. I don't need to be argumentative. Not the point. If I'm the host, I'm not the talent. Got a different mindset. So Brexit. Sorry, let's just not, no more distractions. Brexit. So Labour refused to show up today for the vote for a general election, thereby making sure that it failed under the Fixed Term Parliaments Act because they only got 299 votes. So there that was. But the likelihood now is that the Lib Dem one-line bill to call for an election outside of the Fixed Term Parliaments Act by setting it aside within the bill itself and go for this one-off election that will only need a majority will probably take place this week. Johnson will probably go for it. It'll be for the 9th of December because the Lib Dems and the Scottish National Party are hoping that the students can vote both at their university and at home so that they can try and cook the votes. It's a trap. It's terrible. But I think Johnson feels that he's got a strong enough lead that it won't matter. I might have missed it, insufferable butthole. Sorry. So that elections will most likely are going to have a general election on the 9th of December. Johnson was trying to go for the 12th. The Lib Dems want to go for the 9th. It'll probably happen. The SNP and the Lib Dems understand that that has to go through without amendment. I don't think Johnson will go for them adding 16-year-olds into the vote, which would be ridiculous. And we'll go from there. The likelihood here, the best way I can read this is that people are not happy with Johnson for not having secured Brexit on October 31st. Yes, a lot of people understand that Parliament did everything imaginable to stop him from doing so, and a lot of this wasn't his fault, but it doesn't matter. He's going to lose 5 to 10 points over where he is currently. Don't expect the Tories to get more than 30%. It's not going to work. Brexit Party will see 20% polling, if not more, by the time we're done. Not at the national level. Locally, in certain leave districts, especially in labor heavy or labor traditional leave districts, and there's a lot of them, Brexit Party will do very well as the only party that they can trust to deliver Brexit. Okay? And that's That's what I think is going to happen. I think Farage will take between 50 and 70 seats. I mean, again, I'm just spitballing here, guys. We'll know as time goes on, but my gut feeling here is that Farage will take between 50 and 70 seats. Even if he only takes 35 or 40, it'll still be a significant amount. And it will probably be enough to keep Johnson from having an outright majority of Tories. And therefore, he'll need Farage to form a government. And if that's what happens, then the possibility of a stronger Brexit than we currently have happens. It's even possible that Farage pushes Johnson in such a way as to hold his feet to the fire while negotiating with Barnier over a free trade deal, so that by next December, they leave on a no deal anyway. Carl Williams, I agree with you completely. And unless Farage starts outpolling the Tories, no deal is not going to happen in January. Next December, possibly. January, no. It's a terrible deal. Is the BNP around in Britain anymore? I don't think so. British National Party? I don't think so. So, that's where we are on Brexit. I don't see it getting much better than that. So, what's funny watching Swinson, says Semegis, calling for a different election date than Bojo so university students can get a chance to vote. Totally oblivious to the hatred towards the Lib Dems for tripling tuition fee when in power. I think Farage will get seats fans regardless. I think he'll get some. I think if he makes a pact with the Tories, he'll get more. This is not 2015. This is a much different election cycle. And everybody right now is very fluid in their party loyalty. Much, much different than it was in 2015. Tim Cutler says he blames the Queen for consenting to the Benn bill. I agree with you. The Queen should have never consented to the Benn bill. She should have said no to it. Tone Loke says Brexit will never happen without violence. It's also very possible. Eden Funbank says the Tories aren't going to make a pact with Farage. They feel they don't need to. I agree with you, but let's go look at the polls on December 2nd. This is what Johnson's plan was from the beginning. Johnson's plan was to do exactly what he's done. And it's horrible. What he's done is terrible. And Farage had this scoped out over the summer. He said, what Boris is going to do is he's going to reheat Theresa May's deal, get rid of the backstop, and then push it through in order to make sure that he saves the Tory party and pushes a real Brexit to the side. Nigel said this back in July. Okay? He wasn't stupid. He knew exactly what was going on. He knows Boris Johnson better than any of us do. And he blackmailed the ERG into it because they're a bunch of spineless fucking toadies who are more worried about, oh, we might not get any Brexit whatsoever, and we know they're a bunch of ballless fucking cucks is what they are. Mogg and the rest of them. The only ones like Owen Patterson and the hardcore ones, John Redwood and Owen Patterson, are the only ones that actually fucking matter. The rest of them don't. So this shit's, this is crazy. And if the British people scope out what Boris is doing here, and they take seats and they overcome their Brexit fatigue, and they say, fine, we're going to go 3 more months. We're putting Nigel in charge of this because we don't trust you. And the polls move such that the Brexit party starts to really rise from here, which I don't think is going to happen. But if it happens, I won't say no. Then it gets really interesting from here. Farage looked today sounded more depressed than I've seen him for a while. Yeah, you're right. Fun fact. Splash and Go asks, with all the riots around the world, this actually goes right back to what to the original argument topic for the evening. And everyone angry at the elite establishment around the world, will they start another world war to get rid of the troublemakers like previous ones? Or are they beyond caring? They're not beyond caring. They still think they have this thing under control and that they're going to be able to keep it under control. I mean, believe me, Emmanuel Macron is very happy with the outcome today because he wants the Brits mostly on the hook for Brexit and certainly on the hook for any financial troubles that come down the pike as he now tries to go and blackmail Germany with their $825 or $880 billion worth of Target 2 liabilities. You wait. This is what's coming. He and Christine Lagarde have already got this thing worked out, and the Germans know, and the Germans can see it, and they can smell it. And Brexit uncertainty helps him sell that at some point. So, all right, what else do we want to talk about tonight? 877, thank you, Tim Connor. Here's one for you. Tulsi Gabbard would attend press conference to demand the U.S. government release 9/11 documents implicating Saudi Arabia in the attacks. Good for her. See, this is where it starts to get really interesting. It's the main purpose of keeping Britain in the EU. They want their money. 7th largest economy in the world. My reaction to the al-Baghdadi thing? Well, I haven't thought Baghdadi's been alive for a while now. I just don't. Same way that I don't think I thought Osama bin Laden was. Sit back a little bit. I thought Osama bin Laden was dead well before they ever announced his death, and that when they need they bring these guys out whenever it's politically expedient. So I read some stuff today over at Veterans Today that kind of unnerved me, that the whole thing could have been faked, and the Russians don't believe it. Iran made fun of it, as you guys pointed out, and that the whole thing could be a fucking deep state con job that Trump doesn't even know about. And so we didn't have any evidence or body with Osama bin Laden. They buried him at sea so nobody could find out what was going on. It was the old fucking horse shit. So, Trump may be getting played here like everybody else, because there's a deeper game being played with in the long run by trying to create a new version of ISIS to spring up whole cloth out of in northern Iraq. So we'll see. I don't know. I think it's politically expedient. I think is the best way of putting it. I think that it helps Trump in the short term to shut down the virulent, oh my God, the Kurds, the the betrayal of U.S. foreign policy, and the Middle East is going to be on fire if you do this. And I think that Trump then gets to have the win of saying, look, we got it. We got Baghdadi. ISIS is done. Can we move on, please? Robert Cielo, I didn't actually look at Argentina's election, so I missed it. So I don't have any commentary on it because I don't know anything about it, about what happened. It's all about Trump wanting to steal Syria's oil. That's another one of those stories that doesn't make any sense, because when you look at the logistics on the ground, there was a great article on Zero Hedge the other day about it. The logistics on the ground are that how are we going to steal the oil when the Syrian government's in control of the electricity? And a variety of other logistical realities on the ground. Okay? So eventually, that's just another one of those. I just think this is another one of those Trump things. I really do. So it's about preventing Assad from having the oil anyway. Assad owns both the refineries and the electricity. So yeah, Trump says a lot of things. Are they real? Do they mean anything? Trump likes to talk. He likes to hear himself talk. He likes to say things that drive people crazy. Is any of that reality? I don't think so. I'm sure she thinks it's stealing, but, she's not a big fan of Assad either, but she's willing to talk to him. From what I understand, don't quote me on this, but calling him a dog and a coward is like the worst thing you can call someone in Arab culture. And that's why they did it. I know it's stealing. I didn't say it's not stealing. But don't get upset about it, because at the end of the day, no one's in a position to stop them from doing it. And we've been doing it for an awfully long time. So it's nothing new. It's just now publicly a thing. I've been stealing the oil out of Syria since 2011. What else is new? I know it's not right, but it's more news when we're not stealing the oil. So we have been. By the way, we've cost the Iraqi, I was reading an article today, we've cost the Iraqi government and people over $1.5 trillion since 2003 in oil sales. We were just talking about a lot of this. I think Baghdadi's been dead for a while. I think that's why the Russians are making fun of him, because I think the Russians had him killed years ago. Yeah, Stoyanovich is right with this. The deal with the Kurds on those oil fields is that the government gets the oil and sends the refined portion back to the Kurds to sell. Problem is the Kurds have nowhere to go with it. This is what we'll see. It's just another reason to keep the troops there to prevent China Belt and Road Initiative and other pipelines. Yeah, because Iran really does, and you got to remember that Iran also really wants to bring a pipeline up through Iraq into Syria over to Damascus, and then eventually to Latakia and to Beirut, and moving all of the ISIS guys that were in Syria down into northern Iraq, and then starting color revolutionary style riots in Baghdad. This was all about the Israelis and the United States. Whether Trump is part of this or not is still unknown. Destabilizing Iraq for future gains. Our troops are being used as rent-a-cops, says Mark Shiro. I know it's a disgrace. Why? But they've always been used as rent-a-cops. Just Trump's making it obvious. No, I say that Tony, look, the thing about it with Trump is and it's fair to say that they still hate him enough that that's enough evidence to say that it's more likely that he's being fed bad information and being played regularly than he is complicit at every level. I think he also makes deals that are terrible, he makes deals all the time. Okay? I mean, that he's not, that he's guilty of. So, but it is what it is. Stealing is stealing. It speaks to the morality of America for having sunk that so low. It speaks volumes that ExxonMobil would be worried about another lawsuit. Yeah. Look, I know. Tone Oak says, look, I was a rent-a-cop soldier in Afghanistan. There's absolutely zero reason we should be there. And I'm not going to thank you for your service because that sucks. And I agree with you completely. And I never wanted us to go there in the first place. And I hate the fact that they're doing it with my money. Soldier doesn't take an oath to steal oil for Rothschild banks or ExxonMobil. I took an office to defend this country and the Constitution. I know. So, unpopular opinion. The USA acting as overt mercenaries is an improvement over the last 20 years. That is an unpopular opinion. Not my house. I don't know that the IPO is ever going to happen, Mark Bogosian. Mark Bogosian says maybe Trump believes that if he places enough troops in KSA in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, they'll be able to steal back Aramco after they take the Rube's money in the IPO. I don't know. I don't know that IPO is actually even ever going to get off the ground, to be honest with you. Well, I know you didn't say it was a good thing, Fanami. I get you, man. I get you. Just better. Stoyanovich with the cynical comment of the evening. Tone, look, there's every reason for us to be there. Who's going to guard the CIA poppy fields after all? Just need to be bombed. Any thoughts on the so-called Iranian missiles in Yemen that the Israelis are complaining about? The Iranians bark a lot. Or as Halsey English reminds me all the time about Netanyahu, what they say about Netanyahu in Israel. They say he speaks English really well. Meaning he lies a lot. FYI, I will be on with Halsey tomorrow night. I haven't been on Halsey's show in God knows how long. So I was thinking, I almost was thinking like, did I piss him off? You know, it's like, they like pinged me over the weekend out of the blue. He's like, dude, show on Tuesday? I'm like, sure, let's do it. So 10:30 tomorrow night, I'll be on with Halsey English. So I'm sure it'll be fun. I'm hoping it is. How much longer does Netanyahu have? Breathing or out of prison? Half-life on both of those things are pretty low, I think. We should recruit that old WeWork CEO to run the huge embassy in Baghdad. He couldn't do any worse than we're doing now. Carl Williams, I've been saying we should bomb the poppy fields, and that's for the old crowd here. That I've been saying that since I first went on Periscope. That as president, you guys don't want to know what I would do. The first thing I would do, and as president, I would stand up there literally on Inauguration Day saying, "So, welcome to the party, welcome to the new America. I've ordered all of our poppy fields in Afghanistan to be bombed. And we've got them up on the jumbotron." And I've also called my friend Vlad over in Russia, and he's empowered, and I've empowered his Spetsnaz to go in and wipe out all the CIA motherfuckers who've been running those fields for the last 20 and terrorizing the world with the money for the last 50 years. That's over and done with. This is a new America. Oh, by the way, there's Punch. Everybody, rock out. I've got bills I've got laws to repeal. Have a nice day. Shortest inauguration speech of all fucking time. But it's up on the Jumbotron. Watch. America loves a good friggin' show. Let's start. Carl Williams says we need to wipe out the Pakistani fields as well. One step at a time, dude. Baby steps. Baby steps. All right. So, and, you know, my friend Vlad, he's going to wipe out all them CIA motherfuckers. That'd be fucking great. Are you kidding me? They would never let me anywhere near the White House. Baby steps. Baby steps. All right, guys. I think we're a little early tonight, but I'm about done. Been I don't know. Wasn't really feeling it this evening, so I made it 56 minutes. I was ready to stop after about 25, but there you go. All right, so we do this every Monday night at 8 p.m. We do it every Friday night at 8:30. Every once in a while, when I'm feeling frothy or something comes up, I'll do an ad hoc one during the day because I work from home. You guys, you take care as always. If you like what you heard tonight, please give a like and subscribe down below. Please donate to the channel if you can. There are links below. You've got PayPal, you've got crypto, you've got Patreon, you've got options. This channel is studiously not monetized in any way. You can't give me super chats or any of that stuff because I don't want to give Google the 30%. Install Brave, watch the show on Brave, watch a few ads, and donate to the channel that way because there's a little triangle at the end of the search bar is a place where you can donate a few basic attention tokens to your favorite YouTuber. That would be me or anybody else over the course of a month. So you guys take care. You be well. The link's down below. Even if you don't do that, even if all you do is install Brave and use it for 30 days, I'll get a kickback from them. And I like crypto. So you guys take care. We'll be back Friday night, 8:30. Be there, be square. Don't be a trapezoid or a rhombus. We'll talk to you soon. Be good and keep your stick on the ice.